Dr. Colin Mendelsohn. He's worked as a GP for nearly 30 years and he's got a special interest in smoking reduction. He's on the line live. Doctor, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
So, from a health perspective, what's worse, cigarettes or vapes?
There's absolutely no question. If you're a smoker and you switch to vaping, you will have dramatic improvements in your health, a dramatic reduction in exposure to toxicants, and you will feel better and you'll save a lot of money.
But vapes aren't healthy though, are they?
Vapes are a substitute for smoking for smokers, adult smokers who can't quit. So if you're smoking, you're burning tobacco, you're releasing over 7,000 chemicals in very high doses, and they're deadly. When you vape, you're generating 100, maybe up to 200 low doses of chemicals that are mostly less than 1% of the doses they are in tobacco smoke. So it's a no-brainer. These products are orders of magnitude, many times safer than smoking. Of course, they're not as good as fresh air, and people who don't smoke shouldn't use them, but these are basically the most effective quitting aid we have, and they're a lifesaver to many smokers.
But the problem is now, Doctor, they're not being used as a quitting aid. They're just being used as a vehicle to feed a nicotine addiction.
No, that's not correct, actually. They are being used as a quitting aid. They're the most effective quitting aid. So what they're doing is getting people off deadly smoking. Now, a lot of these people can't stop smoking, and they'll go, 2 or 3 of them, the other 3 will go on to die prematurely because of that. What you're doing with vaping is you're switching that nicotine addiction across to a much safer, cleaner alternative, so with a very small percentage of the risk. So that's a huge benefit for health.
There are people, though, who've never picked up a cigarette in their lives and are vapers.
Yeah, not actually many. You know, in the international surveys, less than 1% of the people who've never smoked are vapers. So yes, there are some, and we don't recommend it for them, but some of those people would otherwise have gone on to smoking, and we know that smoking is diverting people who would have smoked. Vaping is diverting people who would have smoked away from smoking. But there is a small number, and look, that's not desirable. But you know, we all take risks, and for those people, clearly the benefits of vaping outweigh the risks.
Oh, are you sure it's a small number? There are a lot of young people who are vaping for Australia at the moment who would have never picked up a cigarette.
That's what the anecdotal evidence says, but the research says quite differently. So in a recent study that the Minister's been quoting is a study of 1,000 15 to 30-year-old vapers in Australia. In that group, only 8 were people who'd never smoked, who smoked more than once a week. So the vast majority of vaping actually is in young people, talking about young people who were already smokers. And the young people who've never smoked, who take up vaping, are mostly using it experimentally and short term, and very few get addicted to nicotine. So the evidence from the research is quite different to what the rhetoric we're hearing is.
I've got friends who are teachers and they said it's just rampant in schools.
Yeah, look, we don't want it in schools. Kids shouldn't be vaping and they shouldn't be smoking. But what the research evidence shows, and this is from many countries, is that vaping is not leading kids to smoking. Vaping is reducing smoking. It's diverting kids away from smoking. As the vaping rates go up in New Zealand, the UK, the US, smoking rates have fallen faster than ever. And we're not encouraging kids to vape, but we're saying, well, look, let's just step back. This isn't as bad as you're making out. Most of the regular vaping is by kids who already smoke, and that's a good thing. And secondly, it's diverting kids away from smoking, so smoking rates are falling.
The one thing I would say, and I was a reasonably heavy smoker, and I started vaping as a way to get off cigarettes, right? But one thing I did notice is that it's far more accessible, and I'm taking in way more nicotine when you vape rather than when you smoke a cigarette. And it's probably, in some ways, it makes your nicotine addiction worse. That's a personal experience. Yeah,
look, I can understand you might feel that because you might be using it more, but again, the research is very clear about this. Vaping is less addictive than cigarettes. There have been lots of studies that have looked at different ways of measuring addiction, and when people switch to vaping, they are less addicted.
But aren't you addicted to the nicotine rather than the tobacco?
You are, but in tobacco smoke, there are extra chemicals that increase the addictiveness of the nicotine. Monoamine oxidase inhibitors and certain other chemicals make nicotine more addictive. And also in cigarettes, you get the nicotine more quickly, and that makes it more addictive.
Can you die from vaping?
No one has ever died from vaping nicotine in the 20 years it's been used. 8 million people die every year from smoking. Now, that's not to say we won't see problems down the track, but based on the fact that the chemical exposure from vaping is so much less, we know that the risk of long-term harm is not nothing, but it's likely to be very small.
Righto, well, it's food for thought. I don't know if when you say it's anecdotal evidence, the evidence on the street is pretty significant. Just before I let you go, Doctor, can you just tell us, my view is simple. When you try to rule something out and make it illegal, all it does is foster a black market. Do you think that the federal government's push today is sensible? No, look, you're absolutely spot on. You know, the original prescription-only model where you have to get a script, I mean, no one is doing that. And surveys have shown that vapers say, look, I won't get a script if I have to. And so, look, the black market will continue. It will fill that gap. And tightening border controls, I mean, we've done that before. You know, we've tried to stop heroin, cocaine, amphetamines. It doesn't work. We don't have the ability to reduce the long-term supply of these products. The Border Force just cannot deal with that. And even if they do intercept some shipments, there'll be lots of others. There's so much money to be made from these products that that's just not going to work. And I think this approach from the Minister will fail like the original prescription model has failed for exactly the same reasons. And Doctor, I wouldn't say you're pro-vaping, but you're certainly saying that it's better than tobacco. Have you taken any money, or are you funded by any vaping companies or tobacco companies to push this line? I've never taken any money from e-cigarette or tobacco companies. I'm not so much pro-vaping, I'm pro-preventing cancer, heart disease and lung disease. My approach to this is a public health one. I think vaping saves lives. And if you're a smoker who switches, it is a life-saving thing to do. Right. All right, Doctor, appreciate your time. Thank you, Chris.